The Dallas Stars picked up two massive points on Tuesday night when they took down the Vegas Golden Knights by a score of 3-2 behind some incredible performances from Jake Ottinger, Jason Robertson, Miro Heiskanen, and a few other guys. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about this game in general and how chaotic it was, and talk about the implications going forward for Dallas and how they can punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs, all coming up on a midweek episode of Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, the only daily podcast covering your Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis, your local expert on all things Dallas Stars hockey, credentialed member of the Dallas Stars media, coming to you on this Wednesday, April 27th, after a massive Dallas Stars win 3-2 in the shootout over the Vegas Golden Knights. But before we jump in today's episode, do want to say thank you for stopping by. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment about how you feel after the Stars' big win last night and their chances of making the playoffs. And you can also follow us on your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it. We are free and available no matter where you listen or how you listen. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. But without any further hesitation, let's get right down to business, talking about the game of the year, the game of the season. I mean, that's what it was projected to be by myself and several other people. I mean, a lot at stake in this game as far as playoff positioning. A regulation win would have sent the Stars to the Stanley Cup playoffs and would have eliminated the Vegas Golden Knights from the playoffs for the first time in their existence. Just was not meant to be, but the Stars still come away with 2 points, which is still great. I feel like I was having to tell myself that getting ready for this episode that, I feel sad that the Stars didn't clinch, but it's like, okay, but they still won the game. They get 2 points, and they're in a really good position to still make the playoffs. They need 1 point. The magic number is now 1 in order for them to clinch a Stanley Cup playoff spot. A game tonight against the Arizona Coyotes at home, and a home game on Friday against the Anaheim Ducks. It seems like something that the Stars can do, but they do need to be focused and prepared and not underestimate these teams, even though there's people out there that may believe that these teams could throw, I'm doing air quotes, throw these games in order to make sure the VGK do not make the playoffs. But that is a conversation for a different day. But let's talk about the MVP of this game, the man who rose to the occasion, rose to the challenge, and helped propel this team to a win, literally from the start to the very last play of this game, literally the last play in the shootout. And that is, of course, number 29, Jake Oettinger. This was his best performance of the season. I know he, had a shutout earlier this season in Chicago, and, you could argue, maybe he only gave up 1 goal in this game, or, maybe it's better in this one. But given the stakes of this game, the importance of this game, and just the intensity of it, I think this is overall his best performance this season, and probably his best performance as a Dallas Star. He saved 33 out of 35 shots, posted a .943 save percentage, and was perfect in the shootout, which was huge because Dallas wasn't taking advantage of the opportunities they had on the shootout on their end. Logan Thompson, got to tip your cap to him for the Vegas Golden Knights, kind of thrown into a chaotic situation with their goalie. Just a few days ago, their starter, going out with I believe it was shoulder surgery, an injury, and, kind of thrust into the starting position. So props to Logan Thompson. Heck of a game from him as well. But the Stars and Miro Heiskanen able to get the best of him in the shootout. But Jake Ottinger goes perfect in the shootout, stopping a ton of shots. But what was important to me and what really stood out was just how collected he looked. There was never really a moment where Jake Ottinger was scrambling or seemed panicked or, felt like he was feeling the pressure in that moment. You can even trace that back to even the third period of that game. I mean, there were moments where he would, make a save and he would stare down the player who shot the puck, which is awesome. I mean, this is a kid in his early 20s, staring down some older veterans in this league and getting a little bit of, swagger in his game, which, maybe swagger isn't always a word that we associate with goalies, but Jake Ottinger was showing some swagger in last night's matchup. I mean, staring guys down, making some insane saves. Some of the most epic saves you'll see this season from any goalie. And the crowd was loving it. Every time he's getting a save in the third period in the shootout, the crowd is on their feet. This fan base loves Jake Oettinger, and what a story for Jake this season. Starting out in the AHL, going all the way back to opening night, it was, the belief of many that he would spend the majority of the season in the AHL, while Braden Holtby and Anton Hudobin and Ben Bishop kind of manned the station up at the NHL level. But that all kind of fell apart with a Ben Bishop retirement, Anton Hudobin underperforming and eventually having off-season or season-ending surgery himself, Braden Holtby going on the LTIR, and Ottinger kind of thrusted into this starting role, but he did not back down from the challenge. He took it head on, and he has had a fantastic season. He has continued to work hard. His commitment to, his craft, but also to his team has been immeasurable. I mean, you can't teach that. You can't coach that. That is just who Jake Oettinger is. And you can see it in the way he plays. You can see it in the way he carries himself, the way he presents himself off the ice in post-game press conferences, or, even in practice. If you see video clips of him there, you hear other guys on the team talk about him. I mean, he is one of the hardest working guys on the team. He is committed to this team, and his focus was just undeniable last night. I mean, he was zoned in. I mean, really only allowing one goal. I mean, a freak play, a puck bouncing off Luke Glendening to go in the goal to give Vegas that early 1-0 lead. Really hard to peg that one on Jake Oettinger. I mean, that's just a crazy freak, unexpected play. And he's just improved so much from last season over. I mean, he was good last season. He was one of the surprises of the 2020-2021 COVID snowstorm injury-ridden year that was for the Stars during that stretch. And he was good then, but he's just elevated his game to an entirely new level. The moment was just not too big for him, which I think is encouraging. I think a performance like what we saw from him last night has to give everyone who follows the Stars so much confidence going into the postseason. If the Stars are able to get there, I mean, last night, let's be real. Last night was a playoff game. And the atmosphere, what was at stake? I mean, that was a playoff game. Just the only thing missing was the logo on the ice that says, the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And he showed that he was ready for the moment. The moment was not too big for him. And he stood strong in the face of adversity. And I think that that's something that he will continue to do however many games he starts the rest of this season, maybe only one, or, depending on what happens tonight, maybe I don't know how many more games he'll start in the regular season at all. But if the Stars are able to make it to the playoffs, a game like this gives me all the confidence in the world for Jake Oettinger going forward. I think he is ready for the moment. He's still not a perfect goalie, and I think that's what's also encouraging about this, is that we're getting this level of play from him at such a young age, and he probably still has a little bit of development left and still has ways to grow and improve himself, which is so exciting for the future of this team and for the future of this franchise. Just watching this kid continue to work his tail off and help put this team in the position that they're in. Of course, it's not all him, but he's been such a key player this season for the Stars in their push for the Stanley Cup playoffs and what has been one of the more challenging divisions in the NHL. Really, every division kind of had, its obstacles this season and had its gauntlet of teams. And, the schedule at times was difficult for the Stars, and it wasn't always easy. But Jake Oettinger has found a way to persevere and kind of been one of the embodiments of this team. I think the team in general has kind of done a good job of that of this season, of just they kept on keeping on and they kept fighting. And Jake Oettinger continues to fight. There is no quit in that kid. Absolutely love it, and absolutely loved what I saw from him last night in the crease against the Golden Knights. But we're going to continue to talk about this game and talk about some of the other key players looking to the skaters on the ice, because there was one guy in particular that had a massive game and actually etched his name into the record books. He is now a big player in Dallas Stars lore, if he wasn't already. But we're going to take a quick break and say thank you to one of the sponsors of today's episode. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Get farm-fresh, seasonal produce and easy-to-make recipes delivered right to your door every week. Ingredients travel from the farm to your doorstep in under a week, so they're always fresh when they arrive, all without a trip to the grocery store or farmer's market. You can go to HelloFresh.com right now, HelloFresh.com/LockedOn16 and use the promo code LockedOn16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, that is HelloFresh.com/LockedOn16. Use that promo code LockedOn16 for 3 free gifts and 16 free meals. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And we're moving on this Wednesday episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. If you're a recurring listener of the show, thank you for stopping by. And if you're new, if you're just finding us with the Stars push to the playoffs here in its prime and you're looking for some daily Stars content, this is the place to be. We upload podcast episodes every Monday through Friday, and we're going to keep doing that through the end of this season and into the playoffs as well. So be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube or the follow button on your favorite podcasting platform. But let's keep talking about last night's game. And Jason Robertson, that's the next guy that we're talking about. I'm sure many of you know if you saw it on Twitter or if you've just been keeping up with the stats this season. And I know we've talked about it on this show even earlier in the week. But Jason Robertson, he is now the fourth 40-goal scorer in Stars franchise history. The only other 3 guys to do it: Mike Modano had 50 goals back in the 93-94 season. Jamie Benn had 41 goals in the 2015-2016 season. And Tyler Seguin, the last guy to do it before Robo, had 40 goals in the 17-18 season. So Jason Robertson now alongside some elite company as far as Dallas Stars, the best players in the franchise. I mean, these are probably the other 3, Modano, Seguin, and Ben, probably the other 3 best players in franchise history. You could, of course, make arguments for other players. It's a conversation for a different day, but what an incredible season from Jason Robertson. And it's still not over. There's still 2 games left in the season, but he just continues to amaze me. I know he continues to amaze you guys as Stars fans, probably, his coaches, his teammates. I mean, it just seems like he finally, you think he reaches a point where you're like, okay, this is the best he can be. And then he continues to elevate his game. I mean, this season defined himself as the future of this team, and he is going to be one of the faces of the National Hockey League for years to come, for a long time. And this exciting new wave, this new generation of exciting NHL talent. I mean, you even look at the Calder race this year with Moritz Seider, Trevor Zegras. So many talented young players in the NHL. Kirill Kaprizov, we know last season, won the Calder Trophy and still having a fantastic sophomore season himself. Jason Robertson, right up there with all those guys as far as kind of the future of the league, the future superstars of this league. Because, superstar is the right word. I mean, this isn't just a guy that is going to be, he's a good player. Yeah, he's not bad. This is a guy that will be a perennial all-star. This is a guy that will be in Hart Trophy conversations and Art Ross conversations. There's really just nothing this guy can't do. The sky is the limit for this kid, Jason Robertson. This just in his second season, 40 goals and coming up just in so many big moments throughout the season. Starting out the season with a little bit of health issues, but then just coming in, not missing a beat. Who knows how many goals he has if he is able to play every single game this season. But at the same time, it's hard to think about that because he still has the rest of his career ahead of him to put up mind-boggling numbers. And if the Stars make the NHL playoffs, I think that it's fair to say that the rest of the NHL world will finally kind of wake up to who Jason Robertson is. I think that they're obviously, as Stars fans, we know who Jason Robertson is. We love him. We know what makes him so great. But I still think that there's a fair amount of the rest of the NHL world, in cities that aren't close to Dallas, that don't really, get a lot of news or updates on the Stars, that maybe know Jason Robertson's name and they're like, oh yeah, he's high up on their statistic list, so he must be pretty good. But I think with, consistent national television coverage, that the world will finally know who Jason Robertson is, because I think people missed out on him last season unless they were following the Calder race, because the Stars were losing a lot of overtime games, didn't make the postseason. But the postseason can be kind of the final stage of what has been Jason Robertson's allow me to introduce myself season, if it wasn't even last season. Because he has just outperformed himself from his rookie year and gone above and beyond. So I'm really excited to see that happen if the Stars are able to make the postseason. Excited to see how he translates his game to the playoffs, because as we say all the time, the playoffs and the regular season are very different. But if Robo's shown us anything, he's up for the challenge because he always comes up in the most clutch moments, always comes up in the big moments, like Jake Ottinger. No moment is too big for Jason Robertson, and I think that will apply to the playoffs as well. And even just looking at his line mates, who you have to give a lot of credit to in this game against the Golden Knights, but also just in general this season. Rope Hintz, who could also reach 40 goals this season as well. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. He has 37 goals right now. If he can get 3 goals in the next 2 games, he can be right up there with Robo and be the 5th guy on that list. And that again would be a really, really nice list and be in some good company. Rope and Robo would with Modano, Ben, and Sagan. So be on the lookout for that. We have Joe Pavelski, who has now tied his career high in points with 79. He got an assist on one of Jason Robertson's goals last night, as did Rope Hintz, both assisting on each goal individually, if that makes sense. I feel like I just butchered the mess out of that. But Joe Pavelski, now 1 point away from setting a new career high with 80 points in a season at age 37, people. We say it all the time, but that doesn't make it that much cooler. What a story for Joe Pavelski this season, being age 37 in the twilight of his career. And he comes out and has his best statistical season, leading the charge with Jason Robertson and Rope Hintz on that top line. And, you have Jake Ottinger and the goaltending, and then this top line, a huge reason for any Stars success this season, and likely any success that is obtained in the postseason. And then also you take a look at John Klingberg, who got his 40th helper on the season last night, also assisting on that second Jason Robertson goal. And I know our friend Asad Yusuf says it all the time on Twitter. Good things happen when John Klingberg shoots the puck, and that's what happened last night. He shoots the puck from the top of the zone, and Jason Robertson's in the perfect position for that deflection. But going back to Klingberg, what a turnaround from him this season. There was he started out the year really slow, also dealt with some injuries early in the season. You remember he went down in that first game against the New York Rangers and wasn't putting up the numbers that we wanted to see from him statistically. And then there were the trade rumors, so many distractions going in, but he's really had a phenomenal second half of the season and really played well, especially on the offensive end, which that's something that the Stars have been missing for a majority part of this season, is just that consistent offensive play from the defenseman. And, that part of that's with John Klingberg kind of disappearing at times throughout the year, and Miro Heiskanen getting mononucleosis. So it's nice to see that. And then also hats off to Miro for getting the game-winning goal in the shootout. It was just kind of the who's going to score game, who was going to be the one to finally break the seal from Thompson and Ottinger. And Miro Heiskanen gets the job done, and then Ottinger takes care of the rest. So hopefully that shootout goal can spark Miro Heiskanen's offense a little bit. I don't know how well that will translate a shootout goal over to regular, 5-on-5 or power play offense or even penalty kill offense. But hopefully even, whatever, significance that goal had on the shootout, hopefully any momentum gained from that will carry over for Miro Heiskanen in these final 2 games of the season, because the Stars need him to be at his best in those games as well as in the playoffs. But we will continue on with today's episode of Locked On Stars after we take another quick break. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Built Bar. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with Built Bars. They're better for you. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and a new flavor, white chocolate cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make their bars taste delicious first and then figure out a way to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. Go to Built.com right now and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order at Built.com. And we're closing out today's episode of Locked On Stars, your first listen of the day. This is your host, Dane Lewis, at Dane_Lewis on Twitter. You can also find our show on Twitter at Locked On Stars. Be sure to follow us at both of those spots if you do not do so already. But let's talk about the playoff picture and a little bit about tonight's game between the Stars and the Coyotes. Quick turnaround for the Stars, but thankfully they are playing at home. against a struggling Coyotes team, which we'll get to in a second. But taking a look at this Western Conference playoff picture, things are finally kind of starting to settle in. Things have really been settled in the Eastern Conference for months now. But out west, a lot has still been up in the air, and there's still a few things to decide. But we're down to 3 teams still in contention for those wild card spots. The Vancouver Canucks officially eliminated from playoff contention. It wasn't very likely that they were going to get in. And crazy turnaround for the Canucks this season. One of the better stories in the regular season with their coaching change and their turnaround. I think they're a team that I think if they're able to keep a lot of their young talent and add to that roster, they could be a really dangerous team in that Pacific Division next year. So caps off to them, but they're out of the playoff race for now. And so that makes it a little more stressful now. And the pressure is on for Dallas, Vegas, and Nashville. Dallas has 95 points and the Vegas Golden Knights have 91. Nashville also has 95 as they lost in overtime to the Calgary Flames on Tuesday. So they technically still own that top wildcard spot, but they could still lose it to Dallas depending on how these final games shape out. So Dallas really just needs to play the lights out tonight against Arizona. They need to play a perfect game. They need to come out and win. They just need to dominate this game and be the team that we know they can be and not play down to their competition, because this is an Arizona team that they've beaten twice this season. They did lose to them once, but that's back when they had Scott Wedgwood, and they don't have Scott Wedgwood no more because we have Scott Wedgwood. And there's no excuse for the Stars to lose this game. So they need to play their best hockey, get this win, get that 1 point, get 2 points, but they really only need 1 to qualify for the playoffs, and end it and be in the playoffs. And then if you get 2, you can potentially leapfrog the Nashville Predators and get that top wild card spot for a matchup with the Flames instead of a matchup with the Avalanche. But looking at this Arizona team, like I said, this is a game that no reason the Stars should not win this game. Although the Arizona Coyotes did win on Tuesday 5-3 over the Minnesota Wild, which is crazy, but also in my eyes makes me think, okay, that is their upset win for the final part of the season. So, they're not going to get 2 big upset wins 2 nights in a row, especially on the second game of a back-to-back. There's just no way, right? That's absolutely insane to believe. I'm saying that, and I'm probably going to eat those words with my luck, but that's just what I'm thinking. And that's how I feel, because before that 5-3 win over Minnesota, Arizona had lost 10 straight games. And some of those score lines included a 6-1 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights, a 6-2 loss at home to the New Jersey Devils, a 7-1 loss at the Vancouver Canucks, and a 9-1 loss whenever they went to Calgary and played the Flames. So, this is an Arizona team that they've been bad all year. They weren't supposed to make the playoffs, and they've just been in tank mode pretty much from day one. They're a team and a franchise looking for the future, looking to go play in their college arena, looking forward to the NHL draft and seeing what position that they can get there and see which player they can get, which top prospect they can obtain. So, these are 2 different teams. This is a Stars team looking to make the playoffs with deep playoff run aspirations. And then on the other side of the ice, you have the Coyotes, who are looking towards the draft, looking towards the offseason, looking to continue the rebuild. But also, again, potentially looking to not actually throw the game, because I don't think they would actually just come out and intentionally lose, especially by a lot of points. But a team that probably wouldn't be very upset if they lost, because that would mean that the Vegas Golden Knights miss out on the postseason. And the small bits I've picked up from Arizona Coyotes Twitter, it seems like that they want that to happen, as does most of the NHL world. It seems like most of the NHL Twitter wants the Golden Knights out of the postseason. And so Arizona can come up in a big way if they drop this one to the Stars. But the Stars also need to hold up their end of the bargain and come out and win and play their best hockey. And I think Dallas will do just that. I think they get the win by a score of 4-1, and I think Roope Hintz scores first. Not only does he score first, I think he needs to get multiple goals in this game. I'm manifesting it. Roope Hintz will be a 40-goal scorer by the end of the season. And let's go ahead and say Joe Pavelski gets an assist on that first goal of the game, getting his 80th point, a new career high for Captain America. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you again for stopping by and making us your first listen of the day. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And again, leave a comment about how you feel about the Stars' chances to make the playoffs, who you think they might play, Colorado or Calgary, or just anything else Stars related. Feel free to drop a comment down below, and be sure to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform as well. And on there, you can leave a rating or a review if you enjoy our show and like what you hear. You can also find me on Twitter at Dane_Lewis and our show on Twitter as well at Locked On Stars. Be sure to tune in tomorrow as we'll be reacting to and breaking down the Stars Coyotes game and hopefully, fingers crossed, be celebrating a Dallas Stars playoff berth. But we'll see you there, Stars fans. Have a great Wednesday.